What did the Bible hide about the truth of the celestial beings? Why does official history insist on erasing the glory of an entire continent? If you believe that the mysteries of humanity were born elsewhere, prepare to look into the shadows. Today, we will unearth humanity's best-kept secret, the Black Angels. They are the forgotten celestial hierarchy, the guardians of Kemet and Kush, beings of absolute power who embodied the perfect justice of Ma'at. They were not erased, they were hidden, so that you would doubt the glory of where it all began. This revelation is more than history, it is an act of spiritual sovereignty. It will forever change how you see the past, the present, and your own place in the cosmos. Unravel the ancient prophecy with us. If this call resonates with your soul, leave a like, activate the bell, and subscribe so that this truth can reach the world. Comment below where on the planet you are hearing this revelation from. A heavy silence settles in when truth is chained. Before dogmas and great religions embraced the world, Africa already knew the heavens, not by hearing but by seeing. In the vastness of time, where the desert meets the first ray of sunlight, lies an enigma engraved in stone and papyrus, a hierarchy of winged beings, whose faces have been carefully omitted from the history they were told for centuries. The mystery lies not in what is revealed in the sacred texts, but in what has been stripped from them, page by page, until only a pale version of celestial glory remains. Why, after all, did the figure of the divine messenger need to have its origin and color erased? In these ancient scrolls, which have withstood fire and dust, lurk symbols that whisper of a sacred lineage that governed the cosmic order long before any known angel set foot on Earth. The journey of rediscovery begins precisely where the fear of heresy ends. It takes courage to look back and recognize that the pillars of Western faith may be founded upon a foundation that originated in the heart of Africa. This is the symbolic journey, following the trail of Nubian and Kemetic symbols, realizing that each feather, each celestial adornment, points to a truth that spiritual colonization has tried to silence. The spiritual unfolding of this revelation is profound. If the first mediators between God and humanity possessed the color of primordial earth, this changes everything about our understanding of purity, power, and divine closeness. It is a rediscovery that not only questions but empowers, connecting the modern spirit to the ancestral source of celestial wisdom that has always seen light in all colors. Prepare to hear what the sands of time refuse to swallow. With each symbol we decipher, the veil of official history is torn, and the first question echoes, louder than ever. What else has been hidden about the truth of the celestial beings? The answer leads us to the splendor of a people who knew that the sky was, in fact, black and full of stars. Let us imagine the mornings in the land of Kush and Kemet, where the horizon opened not with the fear of the unknown, but with the certainty of divine promise. In these vast expanses, under a sky of fire and gold, lie cities that the world map ignores. These were civilizations that arose not by chance, but through a profound harmony with the cosmos, building monuments whose geometry seemed to mimic the constellations. We look at the desert today and see silence and sand. But, with the eyes of the soul, we see the murmur of empires that traded in gold and wisdom. The mystery of these ruins is not who built them, but what they protected. Temples and pyramids that are now mere skeletons were once altars where celestial beings, the Black Angels, were invoked and honored, maintaining order amidst chaos. The journey takes us to Meroe and Napata, capitals where power was not merely political, but intrinsically spiritual, linking the king to divinity. The landscape itself is the canvas of ancestral legend, structures emerging from the sand like giant bones of a forgotten faith. We realize that the ground we now tread was the path walked by priest-kings, in direct contact with the celestial hierarchy. The spiritual unfolding of this contemplation is the understanding that African spirituality was not primitive, but the matrix of an entire cosmic conception that would influence the world. Each cracked column and each buried sphinx serve as solemn reminders of the depth of this knowledge. The very geographical location by the Nile, was considered the Garden of the Gods, a meeting point between heaven and earth. But what did they do to erase the grandeur of these cities from the map of human consciousness? The answer lies in the next revelation, the true identity of those winged beings who roamed these realms. Therefore, let us follow the trail of sand, for it will lead us directly to the great halls where the name of these guardians was last spoken. Entering the secret chambers of the temples is like leafing through a cosmic family album. On the cold walls, where darkness once held the warmth of truth, we find faithful portraits of these beings of light. They are there, engraved in relief, with the skin that night wears and the majesty that royalty inspires. They are neither demons nor mere spirits, but the highest caste of messengers. The mystery is not whether they exist, but rather why dominant cultures insisted on depicting them with pale skin and blonde hair. The revelation is visual and shocking. The winged figures of Nubia and Kemet bear traces of ancestral power, wearing golden feathers and amulets known only to the initiated. Their faces are not of supplication, but of serene authority, of those who govern the very movement of the stars. The symbolic journey here is one of stolen identity. To see the beauty and power of the black angels in these murals is to recover ancestral pride, recognizing that divinity has always manifested itself in all forms, including the one most persecuted throughout history. It is a visual catechism that undoes centuries of cultural and racial distortion in the celestial imagination. The spiritual unfolding lies in the recognition. Dark skin color, in the ancestral context, was not a sign of servitude, but of profound connection with the creative principle, with Nu, the primordial ocean, the matrix of the universe. These beings were the manifestation of order, law, and life itself, and their pigment represented the fertile land of the Nile, the source of all prosperity and wisdom. The figures observe us with eyes spanning millennia, inviting us to question, if the original form of the celestial guardians has been erased, what else has been distorted about their teachings? The answer to this question awaits us in a symbol that carries the weight of cosmic justice. At the heart of the African celestial order there was not only power, but an immutable precision, and that precision was Ma'at. She is not merely a goddess, but the fundamental law that governs the cosmos, truth, balance. In the murals, her dark skin, her eyes that seem to gaze into eternity, and the weight of her single feather reveal the essence of a justice that tolerates no shadows. The mystery of Ma'at lies in the fact that she was the silent ruler of the angelic hierarchy. The black angels were her executors, the guardians of her balance. When the winds of chaos threatened order, it was they who, under her aegis, restored harmony. The deepest revelation is that the first conception of divine justice, which would influence countless cultures, was born with a black face, and not elsewhere. The symbolic journey passes through the Hall of Two Truths, where the soul of the deceased was weighed. The feather of Ma'at, as light as truth, was placed on one side of the scale, while the heart was placed on the other. In this crucial ritual, the black angels acted as witnesses and overseers, ensuring that the verdict was applied without mercy, but with perfect accuracy. The spiritual unfolding of this figure is the certainty that the law of the universe is inherent to Africa, not imported. African spirituality is not about easy forgiveness, but about radical responsibility. Ma'at teaches us that there is no excuse for disorder, and that creation itself is sustained by a rigorous ethical standard, a standard guarded by the winged beings who served it. His figure invites us to an uncomfortable reflection. If the matrix of cosmic justice has this face and this origin, what does this mean for the laws and justices that have attempted to subjugate Africa? The great temples of Egypt and Nubia were not merely places of public worship. They were mystery schools, centers of initiation where the ordinary was transcended. Beneath ceilings that mimicked the night sky, with hieroglyphs recounting legends thousands of years old, the darkness was broken only by the flickering light of torches, creating an atmosphere of profound solemnity. In these sacred precincts, priests moved with ritualistic precision, seeking direct contact with the celestial hierarchy. The great mystery of these temples was arcane knowledge. Initiation was not for everyone. It was an arduous journey where the aspirant learned the language of symbols and the science of the stars to communicate with divine beings, including the Black Angels. The most powerful revelation is that wisdom was protected by these guardians and was only transmitted to those who proved to have a heart as light as Ma'at's feather. The symbolic journey of the initiate was one of death and rebirth, passing through dark chambers and spiritual trials, guided by teachings that were, in essence, the science of the soul. In these rituals, the priest became a mirror of divinity, a channel through which the force of the Black Angels could descend and act in the world of men, maintaining social and cosmic balance. Spiritual unfolding resides in the power of word and gesture. Each chant, each movement, and each offering was a spiritual technology designed to open portals of interdimensional communication. The priestly figures, with their ceremonial attire and unquestionable authority, were living proof that man could indeed dialogue with heaven, provided he respected the order of Ma'at and the custody of the celestial beings. But what happened when this wisdom, so meticulously guarded in the shadows of the temples, began to spread, or worse, to be coveted? The next piece of this ancient puzzle is a symbol of protection and vision that the whole world has adopted, but whose origin has been sadly forgotten. In the universe of symbols that Africa has bequeathed to us, two shine with a magnetic force, but their true depth has been reduced to mere adornments. The Ankh, the key of life, and the Eye of Horus, the Ujat, the all-seeing eye. They were not just designs, they were amulets of power carried by the celestial hierarchy of the Black Angels, who used them as tools to perform miracles and maintain vigilance. Over humanity, the mystery lies not in the shape, but in what they truly unlock. The Ankh, when viewed through a spiritual lens, represents the intersection of consciousness and matter, the key that opens the door to eternal life, and is an emblem frequently associated with celestial beings. The Eye of Horus, on the other hand, symbolizes perfect vision, protection against chaos, and, crucially, the ability of the Dark Angels to perceive the truth behind all illusion. The symbolic journey proposed to us is to reverse the process of trivialization. We must look at these icons not with the eyes of a tourist, but with the respect of an initiate, perceiving them as spiritual signatures of the African celestial guardians. They teach us that life is a cycle of energy and that true protection comes from wisdom and inner order, which are reflections of the cosmic order of Ma'at. The spiritual unfolding lies in its practical and magical application. It was said that a Black Angel could infuse the power of the Ankh into a dying person, bringing them back to life, or project the light of the Eye of Horus upon an enemy, dispelling their malicious intentions. They are emblems of an advanced spiritual technology, whose secrets were the essence of the power of the pharaohs and priests. And so, as these symbols continue to swirl in the maelstrom of history, they ask us, do you use these emblems as mere ornaments, or do you understand the celestial power they carry? This revelation leads us to those who, in fact, knew how to use that power. In the innermost chambers of the temples, the air thickened with the scent of myrrh and lotus. There, the priest was not merely a religious leader, but the mediator himself, the human link that anchored the celestial forces on earth. Robed in robes that mimicked the colors of the sky and night, and with his hands raised in an ancestral gesture, he became the channel through which the Black Angels could answer prayers and maintain the balance of the realm. The mystery was not the prayer, but the invocation. These rituals were not requests, but rather an exact science of spiritual resonance, where every word, every movement, was calculated to attract the attention and presence of the winged guardians. The revelation lies in the power of this intercessor, whose lineage was often considered a direct descendant of these celestial beings themselves. The symbolic journey here is that of active connection. The priest, upon entering a trance, symbolically traveled through the heavens, encountering the hierarchy of beings of light, and returned with prophecies, healings, and the word of Ma'at. This act was the guarantee that knowledge from above would flow downward, protecting the people and the earth against disorder and the invisible forces of chaos. The spiritual unfolding of this practice was the profound understanding that human beings are capable of manifesting the divine. The figure of the ancient African priest, with his mystical authority, teaches us that closeness to the celestial is not a privilege of the few, but a skill to be developed, a vocation to be respected. It was proof that Africa spoke and heaven answered. But what happened when these mediators of unparalleled power withdrew, leaving the temple empty and the sky voiceless? This gap leads us to the next glimpse, the pure and ethereal form of the messengers, as they were seen on their journey between worlds. Close your eyes and try to imagine the sky before the pollution of city lights. It wasn't a blank canvas, but a deep ocean where the Creator's messengers glided. When these black angels manifested in their purest form, they were pure condensed energy, their skin reflecting the cosmic abyss and their wings not of ordinary feathers, but woven from starlight itself. The mystery here is the theophany, the divine manifestation in a material world. The ancestral people knew that these beings could materialize and dematerialize at will. The most striking revelation is that the beauty of this manifestation was not one of fragility, but of absolute power, a visual reminder that creative force resides in fertile darkness and the light that bursts forth from it. The symbolic journey takes us upwards, following the route of these silent flights. They were the navigators of the spheres, those who carried the prayers of the earth to the Creator and brought back the instructions for the maintenance of Ma'at. Their wings, made of shimmering light, left a trail of shooting stars, interpreted by the ancients as signs of great events or prophecies being fulfilled. Spiritual unfolding resides in the transcendence of form. The ethereal flight of these beings teaches us that true existence is not limited to the flesh, but that the spirit is free, limitless, and infinitely powerful. They were the personification of freedom and mobility between worlds, inspiring the ancients to seek spiritual elevation through knowledge. But how does one erase the image of such glorious beings? The next step in our journey will show us the tragic and deliberate violence that sought to silence the voices of these guardians, initiating the Great Oblivion. Truth is resilient, but lies have a powerful weapon: censorship. With the arrival of new beliefs and the thirst for domination, the cruelest war began: the war against memory. Hundreds of years of wisdom, recorded on parchment and papyrus, were systematically burned, and temple murals were violently scraped away in a deliberate attempt to eradicate the presence of the Black Angels. Total erasure was sought. Why so much fear of the winged, dark-skinned images? The revelation is harsh. Whoever controls history controls the future, and whoever controls the image of the divine controls the faith and subjugation of a people. The distortion began there, with the physical removal of the texts that attested to the African origin of the celestial beings. The symbolic journey is one of mourning and resistance. Each burned scroll represents a part of the identity and spiritual sovereignty that was stolen. However, we realize that truth cannot be entirely destroyed. It fragments, hides in oral legends, in secret chants, and in the hearts of initiates who, even under threat, refuse to forget the faces of their celestial guardians. The spiritual unfolding resides in the concept of preserved heritage. Even if written history has been distorted, the spiritual memory of Africa is indelible. The silence imposed on the pages is compensated by the cry of the symbols that have survived, whispering the truth through the generations, an act of spiritual resistance against indoctrination. This historical violence leads us to one of the greatest human tragedies. The arrival of European ships brought not only goods and weapons, it brought the colonization of the soul. What was once a rich tapestry of gods and black angels was brutally replaced by a single ideal of divinity, imposed by force. The faith of the ancestors was labeled witchcraft, and the celestial guardians were degraded and demonized to justify violence and enslavement. The mystery lies not in the change of faith, but in the speed with which centuries of spirituality were suppressed. The revelation is clear. Domination was impossible as long as the African people believed that their own gods and angels were powerful. It was necessary to destroy ancestral spiritual authority to establish the earthly authority of the colonizers, forcing foreign symbols and icons upon the rich local tradition. The symbolic journey here is that of syncretism. Unable to kill faith, the oppressed peoples had to disguise their black angels, hiding them under the guise of imported saints and archangels. Orishas were blended, and the true face of the African celestial beings continued to live on in secret rituals and underground houses of worship, an act of cultural and spiritual resistance. The spiritual unfolding resides in the concept of living memory. Where official history saw only submission, the African soul saw adaptation and the survival of the sacred. Each forced baptism, each imported image, became a new hiding place for ancestral truth, keeping the flame burning beneath the ashes of oppression. This tragic imposition reminds us that truth does not sleep forever. The earth has a long-range memory. However much written history has conspired to hide the truth, the African soil refuses to be a silent accomplice. After millennia of silence, the sound of the archaeologists' shovels and brush bring to light irrefutable fragments. Suddenly, the sand gives way, and a relief emerges, a terracotta statuette, a winged figure, with unmistakably African features and an aura of undeniable power. The mystery isn't who created it, but why it was buried. The revelation these artifacts whisper is that the representation of celestials with dark skin was so common and accepted that it needed to be actively hidden so that the new narrative of divinity could thrive. This small object, which fits in the palm of your hand, is a historical bombshell that detonates centuries of visual indoctrination. The symbolic journey is the return of the repressed. Each recovered piece is a vote in favor of ancestral history, material proof of the existence of the hierarchy of black angels. They are physical evidence that Africa not only had its own conception of celestial beings, but that this conception was the original and revered one. Spiritual unfolding resides in the power of matter. These artifacts are not merely objects, they are anchors of memory, channels of energy that reconnect the present to ancient knowledge. Touching them is to feel the pulse of faith of a people who knew that the heavens were governed by beings who resembled them, a feeling of profound empowerment. And so, as the dust is removed from yet another forgotten winged face, the question arises: if the earth speaks, what would the walls of the most sacred places say about this truth? The answer awaits us in the written secrets that have survived the test of time. The stone walls of African temples and tombs are not merely decoration, they are engraved libraries, where time is suspended and history moves. Under the gaze of an Egyptologist or Nubian scholar, hieroglyphs leap from the stone. What once seemed static comes to life, and the figures of the black angels emerge in narrative sequences, dancing with the gods, guiding the dead, and protecting the living. The mystery lies not in what is written, but in the coded language. The revelation is that the lives of these celestial beings were detailed in narratives that, to the uninitiated, seemed like mere legends. But for the priests, they were manuals for interacting with the divine. The sequences of hieroglyphs, as they gain movement, show the dynamic and constant intervention of these guardians in daily life and in the passage to eternity. The symbolic journey is that of an ancestral film, where the viewer is transported to the past. We see the black angels not as distant symbols, but as active characters, healing, prophesying, and ensuring that the Ka, life force, and Ba, soul, of the deceased arrive safely at the Hall of Ma'at. They are the guides of the soul and the guarantors of divine justice. The spiritual unfolding lies in the complexity of the creed. Ancient African spirituality was not simplistic. It was a detailed cosmological system, where each celestial being had a specific function, a precise hierarchy. The revelation of these hieroglyphic movements and interactions proves the theological depth that was intentionally simplified and diminished by later narratives. Therefore, by silencing the books, the detractors failed to silence the stone. And if the stone speaks in Africa, what do the echoes of these truths say in other distant lands, supposedly the origin of all faith? The next stop will lead us to seek these surprising connections. Looking at Africa is to begin to understand the spiritual map of the world. If the roots of the black angels are embedded in the Nile, why do we find similar echoes and images in civilizations thought to be isolated? The mystery lies in the uniformity of celestial representations in such distant times. The revelation is that the influence of ancient Africa was not limited to its continent. It traveled across seas and deserts, carrying with it the seed of cosmological knowledge. In the ruins of Sumeria, in the artifacts of pre-Columbian America, and even in Asian legends, there are winged figures, protective beings or founders with attributes that mirror the Nubian and Kemetic guardians, challenging the narrative that civilization was born elsewhere. The symbolic journey we propose is to connect the dots, to see the spiderweb of ancestral knowledge that linked these peoples. The presence of deities with dark skin and attributes of wisdom or creation in cultures such as the Olmec suggests a common origin or an exchange of knowledge much earlier than what textbooks accept. The spiritual unfolding lies in the idea that there is a common mother of human spirituality, and that the cradle of this knowledge is in Africa. The Black Angels thus become not only guardians of a people, but celestial prototypes that adapted to the local culture, yet retain their essence and their mission to maintain cosmic order. This network of connections forces us to ask, if the skies have been populated by these beings since the beginning in different cultures, who are the direct heirs of this memory? The answer awaits us in the faces of those who, today, continue to carry on the legacy. While the world rushes to forget, there are peoples who stand firm, whose faces are living witnesses to a history that refuses to die. In the lands of Sudan, the descendants of the great kingdoms of Kush and Nepeta carry in their features the same dignity and depth seen in the statues of their ancestors. They are the living guardians of memory, proof that the lineage of those who interacted with the Black Angels has never been broken. The mystery lies not in what they remember, but in how they managed to preserve so much knowledge amidst centuries of invasions and colonization. The revelation lies in the strength of their identity. They never doubted their nobility or their connection to the celestial. In their rituals and attire, in the symbols they still use, echoes the knowledge of Ma'at and the presence of the winged beings who protected their kingdoms. The symbolic journey is the recognition that history is not only in museums, but in people. To look at a modern Nubian face is to see an unbreakable link with the past, a living bridge to the civilization that revered the Black Angels. They teach us that spirituality is practical, it is heritage, and it is ingrained in everyday life, not just in ruins. Spiritual unfolding resides in the resilience of the race. They are the beacon that keeps the flame of truth burning. Where many see poverty or isolation, ancestral vision reveals a richness of spirit and a moral authority that comes from knowing who you are and where you came from. This profound connection is the source of your silent power. The dignity of these heirs reminds us that truth is powerful. But for the West, the connection to this truth manifests itself in a different way, and it is amidst the dust that the next piece of history awaits us. Not all knowledge was recorded in grand temples. Some secrets were entrusted to the safe darkness of the earth. Imagine the interior of a cave, a womb of the earth, where primitive humanity sought shelter and, more importantly, recorded its first communications with the invisible. Suddenly, a beam of light penetrates a crack, and what was shadow is revealed. Cave paintings that defy accepted chronology. The mystery lies not in what is painted, but in when. The revelation is that, on these ancient walls, long before the great civilizations, there were already figures that seemed celestial, beings with adornments or wings. Could these be the first visions of the Black Angels, recorded at a time when man and the sacred coexisted in an even more intimate way? It is proof that the idea of a winged guardian is as old as human consciousness itself in Africa. The symbolic journey we undertake is a dive into spiritual prehistory, a search for the primary source of myth. In these caves, we smell the damp earth and hear the echo of the first ritual, where African shamans sought guidance from these beings of light born from the cosmos. It is a testament to the fact that Africa was the first to look to the sky and recognize its messengers. Spiritual unfolding resides in the universality of the archetype. The figure of the winged guardian is not a late invention. It is a reflection of the collective unconscious, a profound knowing that we are not alone and that forces of order assist us. These cave paintings confirm that the link with the celestial is innate, not imposed. This primitive view leads us back to the complexity of later pantheons. If the idea was so ancient, how did it evolve and survive even under new faith structures? African ancestral faith did not die. It transformed, migrated, and hid itself in new guises. In the diaspora and on the continent, the strength of the ancient Kemetic and Nubian Neteru, the hierarchy that served Ma'at, resurfaces in the vitality of the Orishas. The mystery is not the difference, but the continuity of energy. The same divine spark that animated the Black Angels manifests itself today in the deities of cultures such as Candomblé and Umbanda. The revelation is the spiritual ingenuity of Africa. We look to the firm justice of Shango and see the echo of Ma'at's law. We see the wisdom of Arunmila and feel the presence of the great priests who were guided by the Black Angels. This subtle visual fusion, which connects the antiquity of the Nile to the vigor of West Africa and the diaspora, shows that the African celestial system was never broken. It was reinvented to survive. The symbolic journey is the recognition of the flow of the sacred, which traveled in the holds of slave ships, disguised and protected. The Black Angels could not be erased. They became syncretized guardians, maintaining their attributes even when forced to use new names. It is a testament to the invincibility of ancestral faith. Spiritual unfolding resides in the unity of the pantheon. Understanding this connection means understanding that African spirituality is an integrated and vast system where there is no contradiction between the old and the new, but a continuous evolution. The Orishas are, in essence, the direct heirs of the complex hierarchy of beings of light that history has tried to bury. This vitality shows us that the past has a voice in the present. But how does this rediscovery affect the person witnessing this revelation, the one who feels distant from this history? Often, we look at ancient statues as mere museum objects, separated from us by millennia of time. But when a modern person, from the diaspora or the continent, encounters the image of a Black Angel, a winged being with dark skin and unquestionable authority, something profound stirs. It is not just admiration, it is an immediate recognition, as if the soul were reuniting with a long-lost divine relative. The mystery lies not in what the ancestor felt, but in what the contemporary feels. The revelation is in the power of the mirror. Seeing divinity represented in one's own color is an act of healing and empowerment that undoes centuries of indoctrination. This image destroys the narrative that the divine is intrinsically foreign or white, validating the beauty, strength, and spiritual connection of African identity. The symbolic journey is one of reconnecting with identity. By recognizing the nobility and strength of these celestial guardians, the modern person reclaims their own place in the cosmos. It is a moment of silent pride, where stolen history is returned and spiritual self-esteem is restored. Ancestral heritage ceases to be a burden and becomes a crown. Spiritual unfolding lies in breaking down barriers. If the heavens were guarded by beings who resembled their ancestors, then their own potential is limitless and spirituality is at their core. This revelation transforms faith, politics, and identity, showing that ancient knowledge has the power to revolutionize the present. But this individual empowerment carries a responsibility. How does ancestral truth manifest in the fight for justice in today's world? Ignorance is the greatest prison, and the most enduring chains are those we cannot see. When the truth about the African celestial hierarchy is revealed, it is as if an ancestral key turns in the lock of history. The knowledge of the Black Angels and Ma'at has an inherent power of liberation, breaking the invisible shackles of inferiority and submission imposed by centuries of distorted narrative. The mystery is not oppression, but the effectiveness of spiritual liberation. The revelation is that by reclaiming the figure of their own celestial guardians, the people reclaim their sovereignty. Ancestral truth acts as an antidote to historical falsehood, empowering the individual to declare their divine and human identity, rejecting any narrative that diminishes them. The symbolic journey is one of rising from the ashes of oblivion. The figure who breaks free from their chains is not only physically free, but mentally and spiritually as well. They understand that their ancestors were not mere slaves or savages, but heirs to profound cosmic knowledge, guided by powerful beings of light. The spiritual unfolding resides in the power of redemption. The rediscovery of the Black Angels injects moral authority into the modern struggle for social and racial justice. If the cosmic order, Ma'at, was originally African, then the struggle for equality today is, in its essence, the struggle to re-establish sacred law. This hard-won freedom is not an isolated event, it is a call to unity. Truth, when pure, does not divide, it unites. Understanding that the matrix of spirituality and celestial beings resides in knowledge as ancient as Africa, we realize that we are all, in some way, heirs and participants in this history. The scene of hands of different shades joining under a starry sky, where the majestic figures of the black angels hover, is a symbol of cosmic reconciliation. The mystery lies not in the conflict, but in the possibility of coexistence. The revelation is that the inclusion of African history in the universal narrative does not diminish other traditions. It enriches them, showing the common root of humanity's search for the divine. The black angels become the guardians of all humanity, reminding us that the celestial has no boundaries and that the Creator manifests in all diversity. The symbolic journey is that of restored harmony. By recognizing the African origin of these guardians, the world can heal the wounds of prejudice, realizing that darkness is not the absence of light, but the source of all mystery and power. It is a visual appeal to brotherhood based on respect for the ancestry of all peoples. Spiritual unfolding resides in the new order of Ma'at. Union under the gaze of these beings of light reinforces the principle of balance and justice for all, regardless of color or origin. It is the realization that, in the end, we all seek the same order and the same connection with the sacred, and that this search makes us one. This vision of unity leads us to the end, but not to a definitive end, rather to a new beginning. What remains when the revelation is made? Every great revelation leads us back to the starting point, but with new eyes. The eye of Horus, which for so long symbolized the perfect vision of the black angels over humanity, transforms. It merges with a human eye, dark-skinned, that shines with the light of thousands of years of wisdom. This is the final moment of the journey. Ancestral knowledge is no longer outside, it is within you. The ultimate mystery is not who they are, but what we will do with this truth. The revelation is that the legacy of the black angels is not just history, it is an activated spiritual heritage that lives in the consciousness of each one. The gleam in that final gaze is proof that the vision of Ma'at, the cosmic order, has been internalized and now resides in all those who dared to hear the forbidden secret. The symbolic journey culminates in the self. The eye of Horus is no longer on the temple wall. It is your own perception, your discernment, your ability to see the truth behind historical lies. It is a call for each spectator to become the guardian of this memory, a new priest of ancestral truth. The spiritual unfolding resides in the active legacy. The final phrase, "The black angels await," is not a conclusion, but a prophecy. They are not extinct, they are merely waiting for humanity to be ready to restore order and justice. Their silence is patient, but their presence is eternal. And so, as the image fades into the deep gaze, the voice of history falls silent, but the search continues. The script may end here, but your journey of discovery is only beginning. We have reached the end of this chapter, but know this: ancestral knowledge is a river that never runs dry. The story of the Black Angels is not merely an archaeological discovery, it is the return of a legacy, a light that pierces the darkness of oblivion. Feel the dignity, the power, and the moral authority that emanate from these guardians of Ma'at. They are irrefutable proof that the highest spirituality and the deepest justice have unbreakable roots in the African soil. What is revealed here is that the search for truth is, in itself, a sacred act. Remember, no matter how much they burned the texts, scraped the murals, and distorted the images, the essence of the celestial resides within you, a direct heir to this cosmic memory. This story doesn't end. It merely slumbers, waiting for those who will have the courage to awaken the next mysteries. The sands of time still hold monumental secrets, other forgotten civilizations, and other divine hierarchies waiting to be revealed. If this truth resonated with you, don't let it be lost. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Together, we will continue to lift the veil on forbidden history, honoring our ancestors and reconnecting the present to the power of a glorious past.